What's going on, YouTube? What's going on, Facebook? I appreciate everybody so much for being here today. And I want to talk about a few things, but I figure I started out with this pretty hilarious clip of President Poopy Pants Joe Biden. That's just a harmless nickname I give him to make this more entertaining for myself. So, President Joe Biden, who we all respect so much, or also known as AKA Poopy Pants Biden, but that's a personal preference. You don't have to say that. I guess he was like freaking out at a reporter and called him a son of a bitch. And I just thought the clip was funny. We'll start it off with that, but then I have a whole breakdown. I have a lot of stuff here, a lot of articles. I kind of want to get into certain double standards, not in like a boring way, but really kind of break down what's going on. But I do have to say I condemn this type of language from, Joe Biden. Here on the Anomaly Show, we try to not swear. But we're not perfect, just like Poopy Pants Biden. Sometimes we make mistakes here as well. But, we condemn this type of language. And the only time you should ever swear is if you're, President Donald Trump making fun of Rosie O'Donnell. That's the only time we allow it. But with Poopy Pants Joe, it's a different story. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to make this somewhat funnier than it needs to be. But anyway, let's listen to the clip and we'll break it down. He's getting a little worked up over inflation. But the main story I want you guys to stay tuned for is I want to kind of go through what's going on. They're charging people at the Capitol. Brandon Straka from the Walkaway Movement got charged today. I believe he's on like house probation, and then 3 years of probation, something along those lines. I just want to revisit a lot of stuff that happened over the last few years and see if they're really enforcing it the same and what's going on there and why he got charged, etc. So I want to go over that story, a lot of stuff about BLM, a lot of stuff about the George Floyd riots, the Kavanaugh situation, who's really behind and, behind or on the board of the fundraising of BLM, stuff like that. Just going to be a great live stream, or at least I think so, but I'm biased because I put it together. I spent hours researching today. So hopefully it's good, but here's President Slosive Biden, Slosive Biden, Poopy Pants Biden, all acceptable nicknames for humor terms. So allegedly, it's hard to really hear, but there's I believe, Fox News reporter who asked him something about, is inflation, something along the lines of, is inflation looking bad for the midterms? Or, let's try to hear it. And then let's listen to Biden say a very bad word that we don't say here on our stream.
Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
So I guess now that I heard it, I think the guy said, is it a liability? Is inflation a liability going into the midterms? And Biden sarcastically said, no, it's an asset, you stupid son of a bitch. I'll just say it because if the president says it, I could say it too. I always wanted to grow up to be an astronaut like Buzz Aldrin or a president like Joe Biden. So if he says stupid son of a bitch, I'm just going to say it. All right. We're breaking through the censors. If the president can do it, I can too. I want to be just like him when I grow up. So it's kind of actually funny. Honestly, I kind of think it's pretty funny. I'm not going to, jokes aside, I'm not going to like belittle him for this thing. If Donald Trump did it, people would probably think it was hilarious. But the real problem is, in my opinion, it's not him saying stupid son of a bitch. It's the fact that inflation is terrible. And also, he's not helping the problem. He's not looking to solve it. He's doing things like trying to kick out unvaccinated truckers, from entering the country. We're already having nursing shortages in some places, not because of coronavirus is so deadly and damaging, but because they're firing tens of thousands of nurses who don't want to get the mRNA injection. So, it's like a little bit annoying. I'm going to play it back just because it's funny. So I think the real tragedy here is not his language, although, it is what it is. Personally, I don't really care. It's the fact that he's not helping the supply chain crisis. He's not helping the inflation. And a lot of these mainstream outlets are trying to gaslight us into thinking it's not happening. Like they're like, inflation doesn't exist. It's a right-wing conspiracy theory. Here's why it is here, but it's not that bad. Okay, it's worse than we thought. We never could have predicted it. Here's why inflation's good for you. Like, you think I'm joking. Google all this stuff. You'll find articles literally saying inflation doesn't exist. Inflation is something that they're making up. Well, yeah, no, it's kind of coming. It's overblown. Okay, it's worse than we thought. And then there's like an article saying no one could have predicted this, so they're gaslighting us into thinking inflation's not happening or it's good for us. And then you have the president just making it worse. And, I guess he doesn't want to hear questions about it. But bro, listen, I got stocks now. I'm a big boy. You keep tanking this economy out here. I'm starting to get ticked off like the boomers. So I know you don't want to hear about inflation and you don't want to hear about, the failing economy, but people in this country do. All right. So don't write it off as just a talking point. It's like, we want to know what you're going to do besides kick us out of restaurants and kick us out of museums and kick us out of, Disney World and stuff like that. What are you going to do, bro?
Would you take President Biden's picture back? Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
It's kind of funny, honestly. It's pretty hilarious. It's just like, do something about it, dude, instead of getting mad at people asking questions. But I found it quite funny. All right, let's listen to CNN real quick. It's a clip of them saying Biden's angrier and crappier than everybody thought. I already played it, but I feel like it's relevant now that he's acting like this. This is from the other day, though, this clip. I just find it pretty relevant.
Anything drastic or stupid. And everything about this agenda is extremely drastic. And he's been angrier than I think people expected. He's been more divisive. He's been more partisan. You look at the issues.
See, even CNN is like, yo, he's angrier than we thought he was. It's like, have you ever watched clips of Joe Biden when he was younger? Go watch a clip of him during the, what's his name? The good Justice Clarence Thomas. Dude, Biden has always been kind of a dick. He's always been angry. He's actually kind of like Bernie Sanders. Like, he's aging better, believe it or not. Like, you look at Bernie Sanders when he was like 30, he looked like he was 70. Bernie's like one of those guys who, like they grow into themselves. When he was like 30 years old, he's running around campus like the inflation, and it's like the dude looked like he was 80 years old for 50 years. Now that he's actually in his 70s, Bernie looks like, he looks like a man. Biden's kind of the same. He was always kind of a dick. Like, he was always angry. I would say he's probably less angry now than he used to be, just because now he's combining his anger with like the fact that he's almost 80 and, stutters words and stuff. So it doesn't seem like he even has the energy to be as angry as he used to be. But these people are like, I thought Joe Biden was not going to be angry and Joe Biden was going to be moderate. It's like, why? Why did you think that? Who told you that? But whatever. That's just the funny opening story. I just found it humorous. And, I like to laugh and make jokes because if I don't laugh, I just get really annoyed and upset. And it's fun. It's more fun to be laughing than like annoyed all the time. So trying to bring some humor into it. Speaking of interesting stuff and Biden voters, here's a tweet from a man named Coleman Hughes. I looked him up. Coleman Hughes, according to Wikipedia, which I don't trust, but I mean on him, since he's not right wing, I'm sure they're a lot nicer to him than they are to anybody challenging the medical system or, the left wing. But, it says that he's a Biden voter. In October 2020, Hughes announced his support for Joe Biden in 2020 presidential election. So Coleman Hughes is some sort of like race, he weighs in on race a lot, and it looks like he's like a writer, etc., scholar of some sorts. He has a tweet, which is great because as a man in America who's black, who voted for Joe Biden, it's great to see people waking up to the reality of what we've been trying to say for a while. And I welcome his awakening if that's where he's going. So this is a tweet from Coleman Hughes, a Joe Biden voter who studies race, etc. He said, for years, the argument against voter ID has been based on the idea that people of color can't easily get IDs. Now the desired policy is to require identification plus vaccine card to enter every restaurant and bar in the nation. Where are the people saying that this represents a unique obstacle to the people of color? I don't like the word people of color, but he said it, so I'm going to read it. And this is totally great that he's using his brain, right? We don't really care what side of politics you're on. Just use your brain. Have basic common sense, critical thinking skills. It's important. Question your side, question my side, question everything, question Republicans. Somebody's thinking, finally, somebody left wing that's a Biden voter is like, all of these people are telling me that, people of color, aka black and I guess Latino or whatever, whoever they want to rope into people of color, they think that getting an identification to vote is this unique obstacle that only they can't do to vote. And that's why they've been pushing to lax ID laws. In California, you don't even need an ID to vote. It's pretty crazy. I need an ID to get a scratch off. I need an ID to enter a hotel, to go on a cruise, to go on a plane. there's pretty much nothing. I can't buy a car without an ID. I can't rent a car without an ID. I can't get an apartment without an ID. You literally would pretty much be homeless if you didn't have an ID. You can't even work for a job without an ID. Most jobs make you give your identification to get the job and some sort of identification number. So this laughable, stupid, completely made up, illogical, nonsensical left-wing talking point that, it's racist to show an ID to vote has always been a lie. It's always been stupid. It's always made no sense because there's 50 things I could point to that you need an identification to do in this world, including pretty much everything. But this guy finally figured out, he's like, how come you guys want to, take away IDs to vote, but not to enter a restaurant? And reading his comment section, because he's got mostly left-wing followers, it's such a trip to see these people doing like Scott Adams level mental gymnastics to try to figure out why it's okay to force Black people to show a vaccine card to enter a grocery store or a restaurant or get a job or do anything. But, we don't need IDs to vote. It's ridiculous, but congratulations to Coleman Hughes for figuring this out. And hopefully you go down the path of truth and realize that almost every talking point, they have hijacked racial activism. They have hijacked environmentalism. They have hijacked the word voting rights. They've hijacked public health. They've hijacked almost every major activist organization, or rather like theory that these organizations are following. So everybody that thinks they're doing something is really doing the opposite of what they think they're doing. And anytime you critically think and realize that something doesn't seem right in your activism, people hound you. But congratulations, Coleman Hughes. This is exactly right. And I think personally, the Republican Party would be wise to drop all the 2016 rhetoric. In many ways, it's not as appealing to a lot of people, and really focus on medical tyranny. You don't have to shut up about everything else, but medical tyranny is the number one issue. Everybody wants to go back to normal. Most people who are vaccinated don't believe in mandates. In these cities where you guys spend millions of dollars for Black outreach, trying to make Republicans, or rather Black Americans, vote Republican, a lot of people are against mandates. A lot of the people that support Kyrie Irving also support Black Lives Matter, and they're trying to figure out why they're being forced to show identification to enter, restaurants, etc. So this is a huge issue that I think around half of the Democratic Party doesn't support, and moderate liberals. So if the Republicans were smart, they'd hop on this issue and really, one, pick up a lot of voters, but more importantly, stop caving to the other side. Good job, Coleman Hughes. Good luck. Hopefully you figure this stuff out. They're lying about a lot, not just that. All right, now I want to talk about something because I saw in the news, Brandon Straka got charged today with some sort of, charge for his role at January 6th. If you guys know Brandon Straka from the Walk Away movement, I was reading it's Law and Crime. It's some sort of like news outlet that covered it. It said, however, Straka never entered the Capitol building like so many other January 6th defendants. So he got charged, and I believe he pleaded guilty. I have to reread it, but I guess he has like a couple months in home probation. Then he has like a couple years probation. But, long story short, he got charged and he never even entered the Capitol building. So how did they charge him? I guess from reading the article, this is rough. This is not like 100%, from the article, but I read the whole thing earlier. From my knowledge, it was something like, well, he tweeted this, he said this, he saw it going on, but he still egged it on, and he used his social media platform to egg on this sort of stuff. And this is a very dangerous precedent. Even if I think that event was stupid, even if I think, going too close and egging people on is stupid, this idea that your words can put you in prison as far as, oh, well, you just had the wrong opinion, or you could have done more to stop this. I watched, and this is not to compare because we are going to literally compare and go down a whole rabbit hole. But in general, it's like when there were people attacking the federal courthouse in Portland, when there were people burning down neighborhoods, I think over 16, 17 people died during the George Floyd riots, billions of property damage. I watched them burn my coffee shop to the ground, harass, intimidate, threaten, and in some cases attack, all sorts of people, the same people that they claim to care about, immigrants, white people, Black people, store owners, doesn't matter. These people were just killing, destroying, looting, whatever. You had major, I would say, sports leagues, NFL, NBA, adopt Black Lives Matter. And I have a whole deep dive of who Black Lives Matter really is, because they're not simply, oh, we care about Black people. They are a Marxist, communist sympathizing organization that has proven time and time again that they align with people like Mao Zedong, who killed tens of millions of people through starvation, Weirdly enough, there's no food on the shelves here. Every time these communists get involved, oh no, we're not like them. We just have videos of us praising Mao Zedong's little red book. It's like, and now that we're influencing sports and media, etc., now all of a sudden food's not on the shelves. Now all of a sudden Joe Biden doesn't want to let truckers in the country. Now all of a sudden we're not allowed into restaurants. Am I supposed to believe this is a coincidence? But the point I'm getting to, as people were dying, as people were getting looted, as crime was going on all over the country, you had mainstream celebrities and politicians bailing them out of jail, praising what they were doing, telling them not to stop, and none of these people got charged. So the obvious double standards of, I'm not going to justify what Brandon Straka did because I don't even really know what he did. I wasn't there. I can't really tell. I didn't look at the video footage, but this idea that he could get charged for standing outside of the Capitol just because his influence said that, he led other people to do it or he didn't do enough to stop it. This is a very, 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 very dangerous precedent. And I want to say somebody that understands this is Gab. He tweeted something out, Andrew Torba from Gab earlier, and it really drives it home. Violence is not protected from the First Amendment. Threats of violence is not protected from the First Amendment. But this idea, and this is a little separate from the Capitol, but this idea of hate speech, what does hate speech mean? Hate speech doesn't mean anything. If you literally threaten somebody, that's not protected by the First Amendment. But this idea that, it's becoming broader and broader, well, you said something and this guy listened to you and then this guy did a bad thing, so you're responsible for what that bad guy did. Well, you said something that we consider racist or homophobic and then this guy across the country burned an LGBT flag and then we sent him to prison for a couple of years and you're responsible because he used to watch your YouTube videos. This is what hate speech is bridging to. It's bridging to put our country like Canada or China or a lot of places in the UK where they don't have the First Amendment, where you can have the police show up to your house for having an unfavorable opinion. And as far as court cases or January 6th, etc., there's people who have different feelings about Kyle Rittenhouse, January 6th, Black Lives Matter riots. But I don't know of anybody that went to jail because they egged on Black Lives Matter rioters. I don't know anybody that went to jail who egged on the hundreds of people who got arrested for doing illegal things at the Kavanaugh hearing. I don't know anybody that got arrested. In fact, I want to read this real quick for egging on the people that were trying to threaten the Portland courthouse. This is from an article on March 2nd, 2021. This is from KGW8, and it looks like an NBC local affiliate. It says, feds quietly dismissed dozens of Portland protest cases. KGW found 31 of the 90 protest cases have been dismissed by the Department of Justice, despite warnings there could be consequences for acts of violence. So Brandon Straka tweeted and said some wrong things and stood and watched as people did things that were wrong, and they decided that Brandon didn't do enough. But this is from the article. It says, some of the most serious charges dropped, including 4 defendants charged with assaulting a federal officer, which is a felony. More than half of the drop charges were dismissed with prejudice, which several former federal prosecutors described as extremely rare. Dismissed with prejudice means the case can't be brought back to court. So you had people that were charged with literally attacking a federal police officer at a courthouse, and that charge was not only dropped, but it was dropped in such a way that they can't even bring it back to court. So if you're, what message does this scream? Me, I condemn violence. I condemn stupid events, etc. Be smart about what you do. But this sends the message, if you are a left-wing protester and you want to attack a police officer, you're better off doing that than a right-winger standing in the wrong place and saying the wrong thing. This is the standard that they are setting, and they are trying to use this January 6th event to make it as wide-reaching as possible and charge as many people as possible. And although I wouldn't agree with it for both sides, you had people, tens of people were getting killed, stores are being burnt to the ground. This was it wasn't like a one-day thing where everybody's emotional, everybody's caught in the moment, and then it's over, and the next day no one's doing anything. This was going on day, burn, loot, kill. And people were cheering it on in the media. They were like, this is a good thing. And then you had the NFL and the NBA take this Marxist organization that helped do this type of stuff and put it all over their courts, their fields, their clothing, promoting this message that is so clearly linked to what happened in the George Floyd riots. They're pretty much just telling people this is fine. If you loot, they're not using their influence to say, hey, like they're expecting Brandon Straka to do, hey, don't egg this on, don't stand there, don't film it. You're responsible to do more. But if you're the NFL or you're the NBA, not only are you not responsible to do more to stop the violence and stop illegal activity, but you can actually promote it, subsidize it, and in many ways, sweep it under the rug and gaslight people into thinking that it wouldn't happen. And that's totally fine. I want to show clips of the Kavanaugh protest real quick, and then I want to dive into Susan Rosenberg, who was a convicted terrorist who literally bombed the Capitol building from a left-wing perspective, who was pardoned by Bill Clinton. And even according to Snopes, she was a vice chair of the board of directors of Thousand Currents, an organization that provides fundraising and fiscal sponsorship of the BLM global movement. So a lot of this stuff people think is like random. It's like, well, if I support this, I don't support that. And it's true. It's like everybody's not responsible for what everyone else does. But these organizations like BLM, I have clips to prove it. They're not this innocent, oh, we just love Black people and we're really trying to empower families and get people healthy food and put the father back in the home and then get rid of bad police. These are movements literally tied, even Snopes admits, although they say it's a mixture, tied to literal terrorists who bombed the Capitol. And their co-founder is on tape bragging about passing out a book at schools that she considers very similar to Mao Zedong's book. And Mao Zedong very famously killed tens of millions of people. So when you see all this chaos, all this destruction, it's not random. There's a lot of concerted effort to do this type of stuff. And when you do it in that perspective, not only do you not get charged as much, not only do you not get the Brandon Straka treatment, but you actually get rewarded, paid, and you get multi-billion-dollar organizations promoting your movement and your agenda essentially for free. I don't know if they paid him or not, but here's CNN's reporting on the Kavanaugh protest where they were banging outside the door. And then to be fair, I'm going to read the USA fact check on this because I know USA fact checked and said it's missing content. So I don't want these fact checkers to have any reason to do anything else on my thing. I'll fact check my own video myself. Thank you very much. Here's the CNN reporting on the Kavanaugh hearing.
These are live images, folks, at the doors of the Supreme Court, where you can see protesters have gathered. They are demanding that their voices be heard as they anticipate the person who will be a new Supreme Court justice, Judge Brett Kavanaugh, be sworn in.
All right, so they're saying, hey, ho, Kavanaugh has got to go when he's being sworn in. First of all, real quick, before USA Today gaslights anybody, hundreds of people at this event got arrested. I don't know if they actually got charged. I'm guessing they got way less charged than Brandon Straka or anybody like that. But in general, not all of this was legal. Like they're going to gaslight you into thinking, because the fact check says, well, it's different than January 6th because, the Capitol, that was open during this event, but during January 6th, it was closed. Okay, so if it was open, why did hundreds of protesters get arrested? Just because the Capitol's open for people to walk around, you're not allowed to bang on the door. You're not allowed to, go and sit on property and stuff. There's still certain rules that people broke. So this idea that USA Today is like, well, it's not a good comparison. Well, not to you. Yeah, it's not an exact comparison. January 6th was different from this for sure. They're two different days, two different situations, two different outcomes. I'm not arguing that. But what I am arguing is hundreds of people broke the law this day. Hundreds of people got arrested. And if you listen to CNN, they're really actually trying to blame Brett Kavanaugh. They're not using their influence like they're expecting Brandon Straka to and say, hey, everybody needs to go home. You know what I'm saying? If you're listening to this, go home. Don't break any rules. Don't sit on this. They're like actually just like, well, let's see how we could spin this and make it look like it's all Brett Kavanaugh's fault for existing and getting chosen and getting, initiated to the Supreme Court. Let's take a listen.
We're taking the bench, do an interview with Fox. We saw that. He wrote an op-ed. He came out with that scathing language. This is new territory, and we have seen. We saw with Clarence Thomas. Certainly, Clarence Thomas had his share of controversy during his hearings. But I'm looking at the woman there sitting in the lap of Lady Justice, and that's something we don't usually see.
I actually would be curious to get your take on how you think Kavanaugh will be received by his fellow justices, given all of this turmoil and given what you said about how they don't like to be seen as political figures.
Well, don't forget that Kavanaugh knows these justices, right? He helped when he worked in the...
So if you listen to their tone, they're not telling these people to go home. They're saying... Kavanaugh did go on Fox News. And this is all the media does. They gaslight people into going to burn down their neighborhoods. They gas people into illegal activities. And to be fair, I don't think that CNN should be charged like Brandon Straka. I don't think, they're responsible for what everyone does. You're responsible for yourself, not CNN, not Fox News, not Brandon. You got to do your own thing. And if you're looking to leadership for these people, you're looking in the wrong place. But in general, it's like there's illegal activity going on, hundreds of people getting arrested, and they're sitting there trying to figure out an angle to blame Brett Kavanaugh. And if you want to see something even more disgusting, there's a blue check mark. I forget who, but he basically said when Rand Paul got tackled by his neighbor, assaulted, broke the dude's ribs, almost killed him, over a political disagreement, which is crazy. I mean, it's absolutely trying to pressure somebody into agreeing with you in a political way. There's blue check mark people that still have up to this day on Twitter saying, we all feel like we're Rand Paul's neighbors today, like literally justifying and egging on the killing or the assaulting of Rand Paul, and to be fair, I don't even think that person should be charged, because having a bad political opinion about the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the OJ case, or an assault, I don't think that's a crime. I think it's a very disgusting take that should be condemned, whether it's left wing or right wing. But I don't think that you should get charged for a tweet saying you agree with something like that. I mean, there's a lot of bad opinions out there. I don't think everybody should be charged for them. However, there's direct links to like, hey, that was a violent assault. Yes, I agree with it. I wish that I did it. And they don't give a single crap. But if you're standing outside the Capitol at the wrong vaccine salesman event, Donald J. Trump, the Moderna salesman, if you got conned into going to January 6th and being a good patriot for Mr. Daddy Pfizer, now your whole life is ruined because the media and the justice system does not treat you the same way as other media, other influential figures. And it's really just disappointing. But knowing that life is not fair, this country's not fair, be very aware of what you do and what you say, because you have everything rigged against you. So it's not fair, but life is not fair. So be smart with what you do. And it sucks. I'm going to play a clip after this. I have more stuff, but I do want to say this really, really quick, because although I think January 6th and the BLM riots, I think in their own ways, they were each, not good for either side. Although weirdly enough, both of them benefited Democrats. When the BLM riots happened, Joe Biden surged in the polls. Act Blue got hundreds of millions of dollars of donations. So when they burn down our neighborhoods, all of a sudden Democrats get benefit from that. When right-wingers screw up at the Capitol, Democrats get benefit from that. They get a bunch of, January 6th committees. They get a bunch of news, people watching CNN. It was like record high on the Capitol stuff. So weirdly enough, they both helped the left. But in general, I think in their own way, I'm not justifying either of them. But I do want to say to the government, for the BLM riots and also January 6th, keep in mind that the federal government, local governments, governors, etc., they treated people like animals, slaves, and criminals for 3 or 4 months. So, I don't think the BLM riots would have ever happened if the government didn't abuse their power and shut everybody inside. I'm not saying there's not criminals. I'm not saying there's not bad people on the left, but there's no way in hell the BLM riots would have been as big and as widespread as they were if people could go to work. If people could go to work, if people had music events to go to, a lot of people would have been traveling. Some people would have been at Coachella. Some people, tens of millions of people would have been at their 9 to 5, and they wouldn't have had time to, burn down whole neighborhoods. A large reason that this happened, this is not to justify it, because yes, there is the video footage, etc. I think people still would have been upset. But a large reason that the BLM riots were so big, or the George Floyd riots were so widespread, is because of the lockdowns. So I think the government should take an ounce of accountability for treating people like crap. And when it's all said and done, lockdowns, forced masking, forced injections, Omicron is pretty much proving that it doesn't eliminate the virus. And the data in every single country proves that. But these idiots just don't want to move on and tell the truth to people. So I think whether it be January 6th or the BLM riots, although they're very different, I don't think they're the same event. I think the federal government and local government should take some responsibility. We treated people like shit for a year. Left wingers went crazy for a week. Right wingers went crazy for a day. And it's not to say that it's justified, but when you treat people and coop them up and cage them up when they're innocent people who didn't do anything, and then you treat Trump supporters like shit for 4 years on your media sources, and you treat everybody like they're subhuman for the fact that they just don't want your injection, people are going to be angry, tense. This is just like basic social psychology and how to govern. I wouldn't govern a state this way. And if this happened, I wouldn't say you're completely innocent or I'm not going to charge anybody, but I would say, hey, you know what, as a governor, as a president, as the Congress and Senate, we're sorry. We're sorry we kicked you out of a job for 3 months. We're sorry that we kept every single paycheck, but you had to stop a paycheck. We're sorry we caused inflation and then lied about it. We're sorry about this. We're sorry that we lost faith in our election system, not just because of Donald Trump, but because of the 20 years. You can find clips of Al Gore complaining about the election, Hillary Clinton complaining about the election, Rachel Maddow complaining about the election. People have complained about the elections for 10 plus years. So, these same people, then they point the blame to you. It reminds me of the masking thing. So it's like, all right, what are taxes? They steal your money. Okay, so the government steals my money. And then they steal more money. And then they steal your money. And then they steal her money. And then depending on your pronoun, him, her, doesn't matter your pronoun, they're stealing your money. Whether you're gay, straight, left wing, right wing, your money's being stolen by the government. And then what do they do with it? They buy N95 masks and fund vaccines. And then when they're forced masking, they cloth mask for a year, 2 years, they give everybody vaccines and Omicron surges at record high. Do they take any accountability? Like, sorry, we stole your money and we screwed up. We didn't do that great of a job. No, they blame you. They take your money. They screw up with your money. They waste your money. They give your money to their friends and stupid companies that don't even do anything. And then they blame you when the results suck. The government sucks, So I think on January 6th and on BLM stuff, this is kind of my thought, and I don't want to be misconstrued, but I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what does the government expect? It's not to justify either event. It's just like, what do you expect when you govern so poorly? Like, you lock everybody out of gyms, spas, hip hop events. Like, people have nowhere to go. And then they hit the streets of Hollywood. I mean, the riots for a lot of people were just an excuse to get outside. If you're right wing, you've already been outside. But if you're left wing and you're afraid of, going outside and everybody's going to belittle you, that was the one time all the health experts didn't give a shit. They said, oh, you know what? Racism's worse than public health. So go out and be a degenerate. And people went out in the streets because they haven't been out in the streets for 3 months. So you could say that the government, should take some ounce of accountability in both of those. And that's what disgusts me, that they just don't, and they just blame right wing, they blame the left wing. And people do need to take accountability for themselves, but so does Nancy Pelosi, so does Chuck Schumer, so does Trump, so does Biden, so does McConnell. These people have no shame whatsoever. You have left-wingers gaslighting you into thinking they were going to fight the virus. They didn't. They're failing in polls because their whole illusion is sinking. You have Republicans gaslighting people into thinking that it just came when Biden came in office and they had everything under control. No, they didn't. In 2020, they screwed up and they owe everybody an apology too. I'm just so tired of them blaming us for everything when they're stealing our money and they don't even know how to use it properly. So it's not justifying either event, but if we had a sane and moral government, they would say, you know what, we take even 5% of accountability. We think that socially, when you abuse people, you abuse their children, you treat them like crap in the media for 4 years, you pretty much justify them burning their own neighborhoods and now their property values going down and now there's more crime and all these cities that celebrities and athletes justified the burning and looting in the neighborhoods. What do these people have to show for it? Is the property value up? Is it better there? Did the crime go down? Are the police better? No, these idiots, just like, no offense, but on the right wing, it was an emotional outburst. They weren't thinking straight. They did a bunch of stupid crap, and now they're going to suffer for years. And to be fair, whether people want to hear it or not, I think the same thing about January 6th. People got emotional. Some people did stupid shit. A lot of people didn't. And now everybody has to suffer for years off of it. And even people that didn't even do technically anything illegal are being charged with something because they decided that you need to do more to stop this. What about everybody else that literally egged on other illegal activity? This is a very dangerous precedent to set. And real quick, it's just like the Me Too situation. Do I want to stop rapists? Absolutely. Anybody that rapes a kid, rapes a woman, rapes anybody, rape is bad, especially child pedophilia, people human trafficking kids and this disgusting child porn. They got 10-year-olds. This stuff comes out in the news all the time. That needs to get charged. But Me Too is trying to conflate that and being like, well, if a woman accuses you of something, even if it's 60 years ago, that means you're guilty. And the reason that this is so dangerous is not because we don't want to stop evil things like I just mentioned. It's dangerous because what it means is one person's word is bigger than the courts. There is no trial. There is no justification. If you could find one woman or two women that hate you for a political, social, or emotional reason, that their word is better than the courts. And really what that was doing at the time, although maybe a lot of people thought it was the right thing to do, it was really rewriting our laws and being like, you're guilty until, instead of innocent until proven guilty, you're guilty. You're guilty, and you're guilty even if you're innocent in court. We're not going to pay attention to the court. It was overturning the law in this country. And this is, to me, kind of what the Brandon Straka case is doing. It's trying to say, if you're at an event and someone does something stupid, you're responsible. If you filmed it, if you were there, if you said something, I think he said hold the line, which is a phrase that people use all the time. It's very dicey when it comes to words, etc. I try to be careful with my words, but say there's things called in politics war room and war chest, right? Steve Bannon's war room. The Democrats have a $1 billion war chest, which is like money that they're going to use for the campaign. These are political terms, but taken out of context, what are they trying to start a civil war? What does a war room mean? What is a war? You get what I'm saying? They're perverting the dictionary to make it seem like if you say something that everybody says, now all of a sudden you might be egging that on, or you might be egging that on. In the article, they were like, he was talking about a civil war. There's people on the left who think there's going to be a civil war. There's people on the right who thinks there's going to be a civil war. Tim Pool always thinks there's going to be a civil war. Me personally, I don't think there's going to be a civil war. Why? I think people are too lazy. I think people are too addicted to technology, and we are not our ancestors. We are not these war heroes and generals. Everybody who's leading our military, it's a bunch of desk, people that just sit there and try to micromanage fake wars in Ukraine, etc. I'm not going to say fake, but unnecessary, I think. But in general, it's I don't think there's going to be a civil war. But if you were to say that you think there's going to be one, and you could evidence prove, be like, hey, it would be like me saying 2 years ago, I think that there's going to be a George Floyd riot of some sort where people are going to get mad because of racial reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm egging it on. It just means that's my prediction. I think the economy is going to collapse. I think there's going to be a lockdown. So they're perverting the law to be like, if you say this and you say this and you say this and you're there, you are now responsible for that. Very, very dangerous. And whatever happens to the right wing now will eventually happen to the left wing. They're just, using this as an in to convince people that it's okay. Like vaccine passports. These were not popular 3 years ago. They're not even popular now. But if you can get a boogeyman, well, the right wing or the mask or Donald Trump, and then people are like, oh, yeah, this makes sense because I hate them. Be very careful about your emotions because they're using them against us. And as soon as we lose the freedom of speech, the Second Amendment, the right to have a legal trial, the right to be innocent until proven guilty, the way that they take this away from us is not through unpopular things. It's through popular things that the public can get behind. And once it's gone for him or once it's gone for her, it's also gone for you. So I find it very hypocritical, but also very dangerous to see that left-wingers get away for attacking federal officers, which is a stupid thing to do. And right-wingers get charged and put on 3 years of probation for standing, filming, and saying the wrong things. Something's not right about that. I want to play this clip real quick.
Confirmation of Roberts. He was hired by Elena Kagan when she was dean at Harvard to be a law professor. He went to the same high school as Gorsuch. So he knows these people. And he's one other thing, which is sort of inside baseball, but he's what's called a feeder. Lots of his.
I just got to play it for 10 seconds to get to the other clip. This is just CNN while there's hundreds of people getting arrested at the Kavanaugh protest. It's CNN basically just trying to blame Kavanaugh, being like, how dare him go on Fox News? He didn't write an op-ed for any. They're acting like, why is he doing all these unprecedented things? Because you guys attacked him for a year and called him a rapist, So the reason he wrote an op-ed was not because he's like, oh, I'm Brett Kavanaugh and I want attention and I'm so political. You called him a rapist for years. The media that was trying to basically, I don't know if they said it directly or indirectly, but you had a woman accusing him of basically rape and the media, supporting that woman and demonizing him. That's why he wrote the op-ed. They attack the crap out of you. You defend yourself in an op-ed, and then they watch hundreds of people get arrested for doing something illegal. pretty much saying, well, it's your fault for writing an op-ed. These people are so gross, but they're not going to get in trouble, and they shouldn't. It's their opinion. It's their perspective. I don't want CNN to get in trouble, but they're literally blaming the person who's getting inducted into the Supreme Court and not the hundreds of people who are getting arrested.
Clerks go on to clerk at the Supreme Court. So he is one of those rare people who knows a lot about this court. He knows about the confirmation process, and he personally knows a lot of these justices.
Solutions. I was at the.
All right, real quick. So now I want to just get into like the BLM organization, right? Black Lives Matter. I agree. However, it's such a genius marketing campaign because people are like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. We need to do something about it. But people don't realize who they are. This is an old video, and God bless her, because I heard that, I think it's Patrisse Cullors. I heard that she's like depressed now because everybody found out she was rich and, you know, she had a rough year. So God bless you, Patrisse. It's all love here. But here's a picture of her talking about a book she's handing out from one of her, you know, I guess organizing inspirations. His name is, I believe, Eric Mann, I believe his name is. She might talk about it here, but she's comparing the book that they're handing out to Mao Zedong's Red Book. So let's take a listen.
Our publications table today, and I was speaking to this young person from Arizona who's trying to fight SB 1070, and he grabbed a book and he said it's like Mao's Red Book, and I was like, man, that's what I was thinking, and it was just really cool to hear him make that connection. And I was like, how about you buy?
So she's handing out a book, and I've watched this whole interview, actually. The guy comes out, Mann, his last name's Mann. He comes out, talks about the book. You know, we're selling it for cheap. We just want to get the word out there. And she's saying somebody compared it to Mao Zedong's Red Book. And I was like, yeah, me too. That's what I was thinking. If you guys don't know who Mao Zedong is, he killed between 15 to 55 million people between 1958 and 1962. So the death count of Mao Zedong at minimum is 2 times as much as Hitler's death count. You know, you hear about Hitler all the time. You don't hear about Mao Zedong that much. He might have killed 50 million people. And she's like, yeah, the book's kind of like that. Ha, 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 ha. And it's like, what? This is the organization that's running all this stuff. So let's talk about real terrorism at the Capitol. That is extreme terrorism that everybody should condemn. This is a Politico article from a year ago or 2 years ago. I guess actually a year ago. It says, when the left attacked the Capitol 50 years ago, extremists bombed the seat. And this is going to get interesting for those who don't know. 50 years ago, extremists bombed the seat of American democracy to end a war and start a revolution. It did neither, but it may have helped bring down a president. In the winter of 1971, you could find vestiges, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like reading this whole article, but basically they're saying it used to be easier to get into the Capitol. They didn't have all the security that they do now. And a terrorist group called the Weather Underground took advantage of that and literally bombed the Capitol. One of the ladies' names was Susan Rosenberg. All right, this is going to get interesting. So you had a terrorist organization, a mostly female terrorist organization, who bombed the Capitol. Bomb. So Susan Rosenberg was rightfully in jail for a long time until her sentence was commuted by President Bill Clinton on January 20th, 2001. How nice of Bill Clinton to pardon a terrorist who bombed the Capitol just a few months before people bombed, or rather planes hit the Twin Towers. So Bill Clinton pardoned this terrorist who bombed the Capitol. All right. Here's where it gets really interesting. So Susan Rosenberg of the Weather Underground, who was a left-wing organizer who literally bombed the Capitol building, was a literal terrorist. She is also connected to Black Lives Matter. Even Snopes can't deny that. They try to fact check this stuff and say mixture, mostly false, but this is directly from Snopes.com. It says, claim, Susan Rosenberg is a convicted terrorist who had a seat on the board of director of Thousand Currents, an organization which handles fundraising for the Black Lives Matter global network. Ready? This is saying what's true. Snopes is admitting this is 100% true. It says, Susan Rosenberg has served as vice chair of the board of directors for Thousand Currents, an organization that provides fundraising and fiscal sponsorship for the Black Lives Matter global network. She was an active member of revolutionary left-wing movements whose illegal activity, including bombing U.S. government buildings and committing armed robberies. And if you read, there's 2 political articles. One of them says when the left attacked the Capitol. The other one says the dark history of America's first female terrorist group. The women of the May 19th bombed the U.S. Capitol and plotted Henry Kissinger's death, but they have long been forgotten. So you literally have a terrorist, a left-wing terrorist who bombed the Capitol of the U.S. building, sitting on or sat on previously a board that is responsible for fundraising and fiscal sponsorship of BLM. And you have literally the leader, once again, comparing a book she's handing out at college campuses to Mao Zedong's book, and Mao Zedong killed 15 to 55 million people. I don't think these people should be charged. You should be allowed, if you like Mao Zedong's book, you can't charge somebody for liking a book or having unpopular opinions. Some people like Charles Manson. What are you going to throw everybody in jail who likes Charles Manson? Some people support Kyle Rittenhouse. Some people don't. Some people still think he's a murderer. What are you going to throw everybody? Is everybody going to go to jail who has the wrong opinion, whether it disagrees with the law or not? I mean, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemies for them to go to jail for having a bad opinion. If you want to like the Communist Manifesto, you should be allowed to. I think it's a book that ends in imprisonment and death. But if your opinion is that you like it, that's on you. It's my job to debate why it's wrong and why it's bad. You can't do something violent, but you could have bad political theories. You could support bad people. That's not, that this is so bad that they're doing it to right-wing people when this is what these people are up to.
Publications table today, and I was speaking to this young person from Arizona who's trying to fight SB 1070, and he grabbed a book and he said it's like Mao's Red Book, and I was like, man, that's what I was thinking, and it was just really cool to hear him make that connection. I was like, how about you buy like 10 to 15 of these books, and you all have like a youth organizing group where you talk about it. And
so yeah, just get that book that's like Mao Zedong's book and have a group and talk about it. These people are beyond socialists. They're communists. They support communist ideology. They're implementing communist ideology. They're literally working or indirectly in some ways connected to people who did what I just told you with Susan Rosenberg. No, it's not a direct connection, but was on a board, fundraising for this stuff. It's not random. These people, and I have books over here, I have Rules for Radicals. I have the Communist Manifesto. I read stuff. I agree with, disagree with, left wing, right wing, Stalin, Mao, Hitler, these people. I read it because I want to hear what's really going on. I want to get to the source. I want to know what these people are thinking. I don't want to hear stuff. So when I listen to them talk and brag about Mao's book, I know why. I know it's in the book. I read it. I know what they do. And a lot of it is, they want a revolution, right? Just like some right people feel that way. They're like, I want a renaissance. I wish America was as free as it used to be. But it's like, if you're right wing and you do 1/50th of what these people are doing, they're going to try to charge you. They're going to try to harass you. And if you're left wing, it's like you can literally egg on, support, fundraise, bail people out of jail while people are killing, looting, destroying neighborhoods, making life worse for Black people, Hispanic, white people. Nobody benefited really from the George Floyd riots. Look at who benefited from both of these events, okay? George Floyd riots, who benefited? I think around 18 people dead, billions of dollars of property damage. Did Black communities benefit from the George Floyd riots? No. First of all, it destroyed property value. It rose crime. It worsened tensions between the police. And here's what they don't want to talk about, but I'm just going to be as honest as I can be. I think the right wing has something going on when they talk about being a good father and having a father in the household, because if you police your own children and you police your own teenagers and you police your own 20-year-olds, the police won't come around that much. The reason there's so much police presence in a lot of these neighborhoods is because there's so much crime. So if you really want to get rid of the police and you say, F the police, I'm not going to knock you. But, if you really want to get rid of the police, the way to do so is to police your own families and police your own children. And statistically, it shows that when the father's out of the household, as much as it is in these communities, crime rises. There's a direct correlation between all families with that. So, if you really want the police out of your neighborhoods, you need to do a better job raising and policing your own neighborhoods. And that goes for everybody, but especially in these communities. So that's one way. Take zero accountability. Nobody wants to talk about that on the left wing. All they want to do is throw a fit and burn stuff down and blame the police. So now what happens in these communities? Most people in these communities are innocent, good people, okay? And these are the people that probably don't mind seeing the police that much because, there are killings, there are gang violence, there are murders, there is senseless theft and stuff. And now the police in a lot of these neighborhoods, they don't want to go in. who wants to be the next police officer who gets framed or who gets lied about or who makes a mistake rather and actually does something wrong? Nobody wants to do it. It's not worth it because nobody even likes them there. So now they don't go to these neighborhoods. So now the crime is rising. So now the theft is rising. Los Angeles is going to shit. Minneapolis is having issues. Seattle's having issues. The police are being, constricted. That, the people don't want them there. The politicians hurt their how they operate, and it's just not worth it. What are they going to do? Go be a hero to get blamed for it? They're like, a lot of these police are like, I don't even want to, go there because it's not, there's nothing for it. So these communities have gotten worse in multiple ways. Who's benefited? Not right-wing people, not left. It's the left-wing organizations, not Minneapolis, not Los Angeles, not New York City. These places have not gotten better because of the George Floyd riots. But if you look at Act Blue, which raises money for progressive and liberal causes, they made a killing off of the George Floyd riots. The media companies and the NFL, NBA, etc., what did they do? I'm not going to say they made a killing off of it, but they used that as an excuse to then push Black Lives Matter on everything. Who is Black Lives Matter? I just showed you who they are. They are an organization that more aligns with Mao Zedong than the United States of America. America's not perfect, but if you think we'd be better off under starvation and Mao Zedong, you might see it. Isn't it interesting? Now there's no food on the shelves. Now the Biden administration saying that he's trying to, strong arm truckers at the border. People that think that medical tyranny and these ideas are more important than food, you're eventually going to starve yourself. There are countries that starve to death. Mao Zedong starved millions of people to death. This happens all the time under communism and authoritarian regimes. If you think it's more important to be authoritarian towards nurses, towards truckers, towards doctors, towards workers, if you think it's more important to be authoritarian than it is to get food from Canada and Mexico to America, you're going to starve. And then you're going to learn the hard way. Wow, I'm an idiot. Wow, I cared so much about mRNA injections and I forgot about food on the shelves. So all of this is not random. And it comes a year after the NBA and the NFL supported this organization that agrees with people like Mao Zedong and Stalin and Karl Marx. It's not like a theory that I have. Listen to these people talk all the time. They are primed and prepped by people like, I believe his name is Eric Mann, Mann. I've watched entire interviews of him. I'm not an idiot who just talks out my ass because I hear something on Fox News. I read, I research, I listen to these people. I know who trained them. I know who primed them. I know who found them and pushed them towards this ideology. I know what they're doing because if you watch their speeches long enough, they'll tell you what they're doing. And they're not doing harmless bipartisan black activism. They're doing socialist, communist, far left, Mao, Stalin's style revolution through social changes. And NFL and NBA, either they're in on it or they're idiots because they're now giving these people billions of dollars of promotion on their floors. And here's the crazy thing. Black Lives Matter. A year later, now Kyrie Irving can't play and everybody's wearing a mask on the side on the sidelines. Does that look like a free country to you? Does that look like black empowerment when you have a billionaire black athlete or a multimillionaire black athlete forced to cover his breathing holes with a piece of cloth? Does that look like empowerment, or does that look like a foreign country took your people over and enslaved you? What does it remind? That's empowerment. You can't go to sports games. You have to show a pass that you got a Pfizer shot. That's what it looks like to be a power. No, that your neighborhood's going down the tube while these people raise hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not empowering. This is all a front. So people get distracted by the wrong activism and fall towards the path of tyranny. It's the same with environmentalism. Environmentalism is real. You should clean the water, clean the oceans, but let's talk about environmentalism. I'm against forced masking and cloth masking for a reason. Well, multiple reasons. One of them, billions of these masks are now coming in the ocean. For what? For 2 years down the road after they censor you for saying this, Liana Wen on CNN says cloth masks are merely just decoration and you should get a more upgraded mask. Just now, you're going to blame Omicron? You don't think that was the case 2 years ago, that a cloth mask is different from a full Wuhan suit or like a real N95 that fits your face? And I don't care if they censor me. I really don't give a shit anymore. I'm pretty well versed in masks, and I've had N95 masks for years before the pandemic because I believe in air pollution and I was trying to protect myself in disgusting LA. But in general, even if you buy one on Amazon for $30, $40, it's hard to find one that completely fits your face. It's kind of like a helmet, or even different than that, because it's airflow, where it's like buying a generic one is fine. Yeah, it's probably better than a cloth mask. But this idea that it 100% fits your face, there's a reason they don't wear KN95s when they're in the Wuhan lab. They're in a full 100% foolproof suit because that's what it takes. So this idea that Biden buying a bunch of K95s, is it better than cloth masks? In some ways, but is it 100% going to protect you? Unless it's 100% fitted to your face and there's exactly no airflow. I bought one on Amazon and there were holes in it all the time, and it was always like peeking out here, peeking out here. I stopped wearing it because I realized, this isn't fitted to my face. I really need to get a better, more expensive one that fully fits to my face. But the point I'm getting to is they're forcing athletes to wear these on the sidelines. And then they're saying on CNN that it doesn't really work like they told you it worked 2 years ago. So you get what I'm saying? Is this environmentalism? Billions of these things in the ocean, billions of them polluted all over the streets, all over the oceans. You go to Grand Canyon, they're all over the Grand Canyon. For what? For the CNN health expert to tell you that they're merely just decoration. Is that what you thought 2 years ago when you put it on to get a groceries, or a year and a half ago? I mean, come on, folks. All of their activism is completely backwards. So, it's crazy to think that a right-wing protester can get charged for something that they didn't do under the idea that they knew too much, or they said too much, or they had the wrong opinion, whether it was right or wrong. But you have full-blown billion-dollar corporations adapting the name of the Marxist / pseudo-communist group that really helped to organize and inspire mass riots and mass deaths around the country. Did the NFL and the NBA say, hey, we're going to put this on our court, but we condemn the killings. We condemn the looting. We condemn this. You guys got to stop. No, they pretty much justified it. They're giving a green light to everybody around the country. If you do what you did during the George Floyd riots, you're a hero. You get a statue, and we're going to make it look like this is a great thing. You're going to get room on our NBA court. We're going to put your names on our backs. And, they didn't make it clear and say, hey, listen, we support Black Lives Mattering, but we're going to tell you don't do that again because that's really damaging to you. They don't give a crap. These corporate elitists are such scum. They get millions of dollars from the media companies. They get millions of dollars from the sports companies, and they're just puppets. They do what they're told. Put inspire change on my back. Sure, I don't know what it means. It's just a generic phrase, but whatever. Paint Black Lives Matter there. Yeah, say this, say that. They're making money off this stuff. They don't give a crap. They don't live in Minneapolis. They don't live in Los Angeles. I know these media people who talk on the television. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived in Hollywood. I had to walk 15 blocks in MacArthur Park to go to work, in a not safe neighborhood. I know what it's like to not be rich in these neighborhoods. It sucks, and it got worse and worse every year. And it got to the point, if I tried to do what I did 10 years ago to make it, I wouldn't even be allowed. It's not safe like it used to be. It wasn't even safe then, but it's really bad now. Do any of these people care about it? Do they care about the aftermath of Minneapolis? Do they care about the aftermath of Seattle or Portland? No, they just write the name of the Marxist communist organization on their thing that have a history of this ideology of revolution and violent protest and, subverting people through brainwash and using racial issues to push their political angle, which has killed tens of millions of people in history. And then the NBA makes no strong message about condemning all of the violence and bloodshed and looting and robbing and destruction of our neighborhoods that just happened, and just say, hey, let's blame the police. Let's blame right wingers. Let's blame the racists. It's like, so you're not going to do what you charged Brandon for doing? It's just unbelievable. It's disgusting, but it is what it is. They, I believe, have the right to do all this stuff. People have the right not to watch. You have the right to have a bad opinion. I think technically you should be able to say, I agree. A lot of people on my page, I don't agree with what happened in June or whenever it happened in May after the George Floyd situation. But I had a lot of friends justifying it. Pretty much every left-wing friend I know, this is great, this is good, this is good, using their influence to tell people that burning down entire neighborhoods is good. They didn't get charged, and I don't think they should get charged. I think it's a terrible opinion. I think it's evil to say you think Rand Paul deserved to get tackled off his lawnmower, but I don't think you should get charged for it. There's some people love Charles Manson's music, and they like him. It's like, I don't think you should get charged for having views that are unfavorable. There's different sides to every story, but in general, like someone's opinion or someone's lack of condemning shouldn't make them charged. Everybody should be responsible for themselves. And if you're at a place where other people do stupid crap, you shouldn't get charged. But, they charged Brandon Straka for doing what thousands upon tens of thousands of celebrities, athletes, media people, protesters, activists have done. 5 times worse. They could attack a federal officer in Portland and get off easier than somebody who just stood there on January 6th. Super messed up and very, very dangerous president. As stupid as that event, I think, is. And to be fair, I know a lot of people don't hear this because there's just like on the left wing, there's people who think it's good and bad, etc. But I think it was a stupid event. I was disappointed all year because I thought there should have been a big peaceful protest for medical tyranny. But because Trump was running everybody in circles, there really never was until Robert Malone. There was no big stand against medical tyranny. So America has been behind the rest of the world for over a year now because Donald Trump steals the show and he runs people in circles with no aim. And I think January 6th, no offense, was an aimless event. A lot of people thought a lot of different stuff. A lot of people were getting bad intel from like fake QAnon, decoders telling them all this stupid crap that wasn't true. Everybody had these false ideas of what they thought was going to happen. Donald Trump was selling Moderna vaccines. Personally, I thought it was a sloppy event, right? I really do. I think when you have a sloppy leadership like Donald Trump, Mr. Vaccine, and a sloppy, head calling the shots, then your people, he's not responsible for what everyone does. But as a leader, I think he's semi-responsible for, throwing an event where no one really knew what was going on. I don't think he should be charged, but morally, I think he should have some accountability in his own head. Like, I could have done a little better with that. But in general, after all that's said and done, I'll still, defend and support people who are getting charged for standing there. Nobody should get charged for standing there. Nobody should get charged for having bad opinions. And nobody should get charged for doing 1/8 of what left-wingers did when people were destroying neighborhoods or people were attacking federal courthouses or people were getting arrested at the Kavanaugh hearings. It's just unbelievable. And on that note, I'll end this live stream. America's not free. It's not fair. We don't have the First Amendment in a lot of ways, and they're slowly doing what China does. They're slowly doing what Germany and the UK does. They're weaponizing social and political views can now be a chargeable offense. So this is not the America that it was 4 or 5 years ago. Just pay attention, be aware of it. Don't be a coward, but in general, be very wise with what you're thinking, saying, and doing, because they're looking for a reason to make you look bad. So I think it's just smart to not give them any sort of reason, because it's like in my head, I don't know if I would have went to that event. I didn't, but if I would have, I don't know. I think I'm pretty I'm not the type to go look at all that stuff, but who knows? Maybe I would have been filming it because I'm a journalist of some sort, so maybe I would have been filming the event and maybe they could have charged me and said, oh, Anomaly, you were filming it and you could have done more to stop it. It's like, I'm filming it like CNN's filming it. I can't film it. So, we have crazy double standards and people need to be stood up for that are being irrationally charged in an unfair way, because what happens to the left will happen to the right, or what happens to the right will happen to the left. And eventually, like banning Alex Jones. Oh, well, he's crazier than me. Yeah, he is. But, now they've banned thousands of people. Now they've banned Dr. Robert Malone. They're eventually going to come for us. In many ways, they already have come for us. So, that's the important thing, is not to just leave these people hanging and say, well, at least it's not me. That's what everybody's doing at medical tyranny. Well, at least it's not me. I'll get a vaccine passport. I'll do this. I'll do this. At least it's not. It's going to be you eventually. And like I'm saying with communist regimes in the past and what's going on now, I'm not saying they're necessarily linked, but I find it very strange. The media, sports leagues, our society is embracing this pseudo-Marxist communist ideology, and now all of a sudden there's not food on the shelves. It's not that bad now, but if Joe Biden blocks truck drivers from getting our food, it can get that bad. I hope it doesn't, but it's like, I hope people wake up, because, being a coward and being like, oh, well, at least it's not me. Eventually it's going to be me, and it's going to be you, and it's going to be on a scale that nobody can get rid of it. If you got 2 vaccines, that's awesome. But if you don't want a third one, I believe you should have the right to not get a third one. But, eventually they're going to tell you need a third one. So, and most people who got the 2, a lot of people I talk to, they don't want a third one. So, eventually they're going to come for you, So I think it's nice to when someone gets banned, someone gets censored, or someone gets charged irrationally on a scale of other people, it's nice to show your support for them and also just try to lay it out where it's like, even these people in government, these police officers, et cetera, it's like, you could be loyal to the regime, you could do your job, but if what you're doing is immoral, eventually they're going to turn on you too. In a moral society, you do the right thing, you get the right results. You know what I'm saying? In an immoral society, up is down, down is up, left is right, right and left. So you play your role, right? You do your part, you do what protects you for the time being. But if they're willing to treat people in an immoral and irrational sense, what's going to stop them from coming for you? And that goes for all of us, Black, white, Hispanic, left wing, right wing. They use our racial groups. I think both parties do. I think, Republicans and Democrats, they pander, exploit, and, make this sort of gesture of like, okay, we're helping your racial group, we're helping your religious group. And when you really kind of trace how hard they're helping us, they're not, So if everybody could wake up to that fact and realize that both parties are stealing our taxes, maybe we can accomplish something in this country. But we'll see what happens. That's my 2 cents. Let me know yours. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. Long live stream, but I wanted to get all that out. And to be honest, for the most part, I'm leaving this topic behind. To me, the January 6th thing, it's just they're trying to drag it out forever, overstep and charge everybody, subpoena everybody. So I'm completely leaving it alone. To me, it's just like I wanted to really make my whole thoughts clear about it and put it out there, because now seeing what's going on for certain people, it's just crazy. But that's my thoughts. Thank you, Gina. I appreciate you. All right, I'll try to read some stars. I'm going to move this if I can. Hold on. Oh, my God. I always scratch my freaking floor. Sorry. Thank you for the compliments on my new song, Controlled. All right, top star senders real quick. Sorry if I missed yours on YouTube. Diana said, I'm trying again. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Rhonda. Anthony said, hey, Joe, watch out for the... Okay. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Jody. Appreciate y'all. Sorry, I can't really scroll up on YouTube. I don't know how to do that, but I'll work on it. Let's see. Thank you, Political Wonderland. Someone said we want rioting to be banned, especially during election time. Well, I mean, if you look at the polls too, during the, I think it's more fair to call them the George Floyd riots, because that's pretty more accurate. But Trump was ahead of the polls. When the George Floyd riots happened, it helped Democrat fundraising. It helped Democrats in the polls. BLM mysteriously pops up every 4 years. You could find when the riots were the highest, it's like always an election year. I'm not saying it's planned, but it's like what is for sure. And this is like political theory. If you read about political theory and listen to the right people, you'll understand when a president's doing a good job, nobody wants to change. So if it's your first term, like, why is Joe Biden working harder in ways he's still screwing up? But like, why are they trying to drop COVID this year? Why is it Omicron? You could say so, sure, but Biden's the president. So when you're not the president, if you make it look chaotic, even if it's not Donald Trump's fault or Joe Biden's fault, it looks like it is, right? So during Donald Trump's presidency, it's COVID. Okay, well, you're in charge, right? So Donald Trump has this whole new problem on his hands. And then the riots, although it's not Donald Trump's fault that the riots happened and he's not responsible, he is the president. So you have all this chaos and it looks like, oh my God, Donald Trump's racist America burning. Oh my God, I'm not safe. So now that, Biden's in office, you're not going to see these mass riots, or they would probably try to quash them as quick as possible, because now it looks bad on Biden. Oh my God, the country's going to shit. Inflation's rising. There's not food on the table. The stocks are going down. Damn, maybe I would rather have Trump. People are thinking this way now. So now when they're in office, it's like, well, let's get back to normal because, there's an election coming up. So I would think if Joe Biden's, in 2024, if a riot happened, would it hurt Joe Biden? In some ways, because he's the president. But also, I feel like the left benefits from the racial narrative of it. Most people are still trapped in this paradigm. So when that happens, they think, oh my God, we don't want another racist. We need Joe Biden again, So there's always ways that politicians will use certain things to their advantage. That's just how politics goes. And when Trump was in office, it's like, yo, this is all the chaos. They're not going to admit it, but it's good for them. And it's sad because, in a country where you're supposed to love your country, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you should have certain standards. Like, we don't want chaos, even if it helps us. We don't want that because we actually care about the country. It feels like nobody really cares about us that much. And I think it's like these people are out of touch. They're out of touch with what it's like to run a business. They're out of touch what it's like to live in these cities. All they do is hang out with each other, and they get treated like, oh my God, you're so great. Oh my God. And like, they don't even, they've been in this political world for so long. It's not good. I was talking to my friend today. You listen to like Vindman and McMaster, no offense, but like, George Washington was a war hero. People used to like the best general was like the best soldier. You know what I'm saying? Like, nowadays, who's running the military? Is it these great soldiers who really sacrificed? Sometimes, but a lot of times it's just like chody looking, like desk job guys who just, slobbered their way up the corporate political ladder to the point where they were the next in line. Like, you don't have a war hero running the military as much anymore. You have these corporate bureaucrat politicians who are making these massive decisions. And someone said Eisenhower. Yeah, those days are long gone when someone like that, was the commander in chief. It just isn't that way anymore. Even Trump, I'm not trying to be mean because I think he represented American military better, but he's not like a war hero either. Like, I don't know. Back in the day, it was like, you just defeated like, Japan, you get to be the president. Now it's just like, you hung out with Nancy Pelosi long enough. You're next. Someone said, which is why I told you about the fact that Biden is no longer requiring hospitals to report COVID deaths. I sent you receipts on IG. I'll look into it. I don't know about that, but I know they're shifting a lot of their rules with the PCR test, with what they allow. I wouldn't doubt it. I just don't know enough about it to speak on it. All right, I'll read a few more and then I'll try to keep it somewhat brief because it's already long. Someone said $777 billion sent to our military this year. So much money. And now they're trying to start a war with Ukraine. It's so crazy. Someone tweeted today that somebody close to the Ukrainian president was saying, Kiev, which is a city in Ukraine, is safer than LA and American cities. And it's true. It's like, left wing and right wing, nobody wants to start a war with Ukraine or start a war with Russia over Ukraine. It's sad because I love America, but finally, and I felt this way even before I was super political for 20 years, I knew America wasn't the moral savior of the world like it pretended to be. I could tell with the Patriot Act, whatever. But that illusion's finally starting to crack for right wingers and left wingers. We're like, nobody thinks we're going to go to Ukraine and save democracy. Like, you're more safe in many places in Ukraine than America. LA is falling apart. New York is falling apart. You can't even visit the Museum of Natural History without a vaccine passport. Our country sucks right now. I love it, but it sucks. So like, we're in no moral position to fight Russia or tell Ukraine what to do. Defend ourselves against China and Russia. Sure. Economically, we need to compete, but this idea that we're going to go over to Ukraine and do something good, no one believes it. Nobody on the left believes it. Nobody on the right believes it. It's all neocons, Zionists, and, left-wing like warmongers and corporate media. These are the only people that are like pushing the Ukraine narrative. Right-wing people don't agree with it. Left-wing people don't agree with it. Nobody agrees with it. Everybody has finally seen through this illusion that we have something to offer to Ukraine. And Biden among this, it's like, I don't want him to start a war with Russia, but what Trump would do would be like, he'd do something strong and be like, hey, I'm going to get along with you, or you're not going to do that. Biden's just like, if you take a little incursion, that's fine. It's like, that's a stupid thing to say. Even as a president, even if you're not going to fight Russia, the last thing you want to do is just show weakness on a world scale. So Biden's a joke. It's like the media is a joke, but no one's falling for it. So that's a good thing. They're looking for this angle. I like America, but honestly, Russia and Ukraine are Christian, I believe. It seems like the American media and the American regime, which I don't even personally believe is being puppeted by America, but whatever, they're at war with Christianity. They hate Christianity in America. They hate conservatives in America. And I find it very interesting that they're trying to wage war with one of the only Christian places left in the world, like Russia. It's like, oh, we're really going to show you morality. What do you want? More, more forced masking, more LGBT flags, Pfizer injections, like, is that what you want to export? A democracy in which nobody even believes in it in America. You have left wingers who question the 2020 election. You had right wingers who questioned you had left wingers who questioned the 2016 election. You had right wingers who questioned the 2020 election. You have Joe Biden questioning the 2022 election. Both sides are iffy on if this is even 100% fair. And you think, what are you going to export to Ukraine? Or what are you going to export to Russia? The American regime and the people who have captured us hate Christians. They hate, conservative and a certain group of people, a certain racial group of people. It seems like they're at nonstop war with them. And if you look at even Syria in the Middle East, outside of the propaganda from the left wing and the right wing, Syria had more Christians than almost every place in the Middle East. Syria had secularism. You were allowed to do different religions. They had more religious freedom than most Middle Eastern countries. And we're fighting a war in Syria to fight terrorists, and then terrorists take over the whole city. The American regime is being exposed, and it sucks because I love America. I love this country. I love our military. I love our culture. I want America to be great. I want America to be free. But the people who have hijacked our great country do not like us. They don't like, other countries that have Christianity, and they're always just trying to find an angle, but nobody believes them anymore. Someone said, wrong, Lebanon has the most religious freedom, not Syria. I said one of the most. I said Syria, before the war where they killed and displaced a lot of the Christians, they had one of the most Christians. You could look it up. Did I say Syria's the number one and there's no, no, I said one of the most. If you have dozens of countries in the Middle East, Syria's one of the most free, one of the most secular, not number one, okay? If you're probably Lebanese and you have a lot of passion, that's fine. No, you're good, Sarah. Listen, my friend Disaster, he's a battle rapper. If you guys know Disaster, he's Lebanese too. I know y'all got that Lebanese energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all are like, no, this is my people. I like it though. Yeah, I know I already nailed you. Not literally nailed you, but you get what I'm saying. You're Lebanese. You got the passion. My buddy's Lebanese. He's got the passion. I get it. Y'all are some fiery people. That's why they can't fully take over Lebanon, because y'all are wild in a good way. I like it. Shout out Lebanon. We love you. That's why you guys are always beefing too. The Middle East, y'all, we're the most free. No, we're the most free. No, we're going to fight over who's the most free. I'm like, I'm American. I'm like, throw me a hamburger and I'll watch a football game. I'm not trying to fight all the time. I'm a fat American. No, I'm just kidding. We don't yell that much here. We just watch the Chiefs. Speaking of which, that was a crazy game. That was probably the best thing I've ever watched, the last 2 minutes of that game. But let's not get too American here. Someone said, I'm Canadian. We the best. Questionable. I mean, hockey's very cool, but Canada's got, you guys got some work to do. Hockey is the best thing. Hockey, poutine, good. Justin Trudeau, Doug Ford, bad. Anomalies, Canada rating, C for now. I love Canadians, but, I don't know. You guys got some work to do up there. I mean, so do we, though. You guys could laugh at us now. Our country's starting to suck, too. It's okay. Someone said boxing is the best thing. I do like boxing. I like watching boxing, UFC. Thoughts on maple syrup? I mean, yeah, if it's real, I don't want any high fructose corn syrup in my maple syrup, but if it's like authentic maple syrup, you give me some maple syrup, I'll throw it on my food. I just want it to be real. I'm over the high fructose. Cave Woman said, I'm Orthodox Lebanese Armenian. Yo, Armenians go so hard too. I think Americans in some ways can learn something from like Armenians. Armenians go crazy for the Armenian genocide. Like in LA, they start flags, driving with flags everywhere. Like they want everyone to know we're Armenian. We got genocided. Y'all need to hear about us. Like so many American cultures, like and white European, like Italian, German, like people have kind of forgot about their culture and like they don't care, where Armenians really care. You see how quick like the Lebanese chick slapped on me. She's like, we're the most free. It's like, but that's good though. It's good to have that type of energy. Like, love where you're from, love your ancestors. Like so many people in America just like, they don't, nobody cares anymore. And that's why we're getting like worked by a bunch of people who are trying to, do weirdo stuff. I like that energy of like Armenians. They'll snap in a second on you. You don't mess with the Lebanese or the Armenians. Someone said bourbon barrel maple syrup. I'll check it out. Do I think the state-elect audits will finally decertify something? No. I've said this for a while. That whole movement to me is not of interest to me. I want to see fair elections. I want to see ID voting. In California, they did permanent mail-in ballots. This state sucks. But I'm trying to say it right without sounding like a dick. Just because I believe I want a fair election doesn't mean I follow whoever's doing it. So a lot of these clowns that are like, we're going to decertify, it's like they're not doing anything. And I told people this before January 6th. I was like, all these people that are like, Mike Pence is going to overturn it. How is he going to overturn the election? He can decertify it to give it back. What? Why? Why would he? Everybody's gaslighting. Like the people who certified the election results for January, they certified it and gave it in. And then they're like, oh, give it back to us. It's like, if you didn't want to certify it, don't certify it. But if you certified it and then all these right wingers are getting mad at you, now you're like, oh, give it back to me, Mike Pence. That whole thing was a lie. I'm not saying that everything was 100% fair, but I'm just like, it was a total clown show. Everybody was just emotionally saying whatever they thought. So do I think that the election needs to be more audited? I do. I believe that. I agree with right wingers that we should try to make it as fair as possible. But a lot of these clowns running the audit, give us 3 more days. To me, that whole movement was taking tens of millions of people away from the medical tyranny movement. I felt this way since June 2020. Nobody's protesting the medical tyranny. Why? People are running in circles around Mike Lindell and Donald Trump and, this lady from over here with the certification. It's like both parties did lockdowns. Both parties did Operation Warp Speed. Both parties did, vaccine funding. Like the problem is bipartisan. Yes, Trump's better than Biden, but I'm not going to run circles around a vaccine salesman for 2 years begging to decertify the election. Biden's been here for a year. Trump's not coming back. The QAnon people are lying to you. They have no life, no identity, and they get, I guess they get like turned on by duping a bunch of MAGA people into thinking that all their dreams are going to come true if you watch their stupid reporting all the time. They've been lying. It's 2022 is going to be an election. 2024 is going to be an election. I would say work as hard as you can to make it as fair as possible. But this idea that anybody is going to decertify anything and it's going to matter and the 2020 election is going to change, like it's not. I'm not saying that you can't make it more fair for the future, but these people are totally lying. Like, and it's been a distraction because I'm not trying to be mean, but it took Robert Malone to launch a medical tyranny movement. This should have happened last year. It would have happened last year if Donald Trump and his merry band of patriots didn't run people in circles aimlessly for like a year. Finally, Joe Rogan and Robert Malone collaborated, and that led to the biggest medical tyranny movement in America. This should have happened a year ago. So I'm not saying that election integrity isn't an important issue, but personally, I believe a lot of the clowns involved in telling people things and that, they don't really have a strong aim. But there are people who do. So I guess just be very skeptical, be very skeptical and try to listen to them talk. To me, I have like a low bullshit meter. So someone's talking and they're like, we're going to decertify next month and 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 next month. And these people have been saying that for 2 years. They're not decertifying anything. But if they do, then they could prove me wrong. But I feel like I don't think the 2016 election was the same as the 2020. But a lot of people on the right remind me of Democrats, where it's like in 2016 when Trump won, Democrats couldn't accept it. So they're like, oh my God, I'm going to spend the next 3 years pretending like we're going to get rid of Trump. I'm going to spend the next 3 years pretending like we're going to do something about it. And they did nothing about it. I feel like right wingers are acting the same way. Do I think it was equally as fair? I don't. But it's like you have a bunch of people that just can't accept that Trump had from November to January to get enough evidence and get enough court hearings, and he didn't do it. Whether you think it's justified or not, that's my true opinion. I thought they'd have more evidence. Giuliani, Sidney Powell. I was personally, as somebody who from November to January, I supported Trump's right to try to win the election. I've watched crazier stuff happen. I've watched, what's his name? Al Gore, the Gore, what was it? Gore Kerry or Gore Bush? I don't remember the election. That was an election that was changed. I was willing to be like, man, I think that can happen. I agreed that could happen. Like Bush beat Gore. I thought Trump could beat Biden. But in those 3 months from November to January, as somebody who wanted it to happen, who thought it was going to happen, and who wished it happened, I thought the evidence was underwhelming. Did they have no evidence? No. Did they have irrefutable evidence? I really don't think so. I was underwhelmed as somebody who wanted it to happen. Trump was selling Moderna vaccines. Linwood was tweeting about Mike Pence. Everybody's blaming Mike Pence. To me, it's just kind of embarrassing. If you need Mike Pence to overturn the election in January 6th, that means you screwed up because you don't, it's not the proper way to overturn it. And in general, Pence can decertify or send back certifications that were already certified. It's like at a certain point, Trump, Giuliani, Sidney Powell, they fell short. Did I want them to fall short? No, but they did, in my opinion. So, I'm not going to run around these people for 3 years because, at the end of the day, they fell short to me. But some people, they don't want to hear that. They say, I hate Anomaly now. They didn't fall short. They're going to decertify it any day now. I'm going to follow them. And that's fine. People don't have to agree with me, but that's really how I feel as somebody who supported them for 3 months. I just felt like, what I wanted to happen and what happened were two different things. And, at a certain point, there's ways to make the election more fair and there's people working on it. And I support those people, but I just don't care for every person telling me something. Someone mentioned on election night, I'm 1,000% with you guys. The fact that Trump was winning, like there's a leak in Georgia, we need to count more. That's all crazy sketchy to me. Hear me out. I'm not saying I think that was normal. That was crazy. I 1,000% agree. Everything that happened on election night is the sketchiest thing ever. Personally, what I'm saying is, okay, pretend I'm Donald Trump, okay? I think the election was stolen from me. I see what happens in Georgia. I see the shutdowns. I see the reversals of votes, right? Say I'm Donald Trump. My job from that day till January 6th is to get enough proof that they cheated and get it all in and make sure it's real. I'm underwhelmed by what Sidney Powell, she's spelling things wrong. It's like it was a mess. I know it's a hard thing to do in a short amount of time, but to me, I thought they were going to have even more evidence because I do believe that something happened that night, just like everybody does. But what I'm saying is what I saw versus what they ended up having was not substantial. Like I wanted video proof of somebody changing the results or like 100% proof that's irrefutable. I don't believe that they had that much. I think they had enough to impress me and enough to impress you, but not enough to impress the people who they needed to impress. That's just my thoughts. I'm not saying it was right. I'm just like, I was hoping that they would get more. I thought they'd have somebody on video footage, doing this and doing that. And then we could be like, look, they literally cheated. But I feel like it was a bunch of like things that were like close, but not quite. And it was disappointing. But I think mail-in ballots should not exist. I personally think ID voting is necessary. I think you should do identification. I think it should be a day or 2 days max. I don't know about this like 5 weeks of mailing stuff in. I'm totally against all this. I guess it's just like, I don't know what to do about it. There are people working on it. There are people not. So I guess for me, and this is just my thoughts. People don't have to agree. I don't really care. I think Republicans will win in November. I think they can win. I think it's possible to cheat, but I don't know that they're going to be able to get 500 Democrats in office. So, for example, under the Trump election, hundreds of Republicans won. I think hundreds of Republicans are going to win in November. I'm pretty sure about it, but anything could change. So I just hope that people are focused on how could we make elections more fair. But at the same time, you have a lot of people now that say, oh, it's all rigged, I'm not going to vote. If you don't vote, 500 Democrats are going to win. If 500 Democrats win, this country turns into a worse version of Australia. So I'm just trying to say, be wise about what you're doing, because the people that get mad at what I'm saying are saying, it's fake, I'm not going to vote. It's like, if everybody felt like you, our country would be worse than Australia right now. Our country would be like on a communist Chinese style lockdown. So don't be emotional about it. Be rational about it. As somebody that probably despises Republicans more than most people, I'm still going to vote based on a strategic trying to get rid of authoritarianism. So, I see millions of people like, y'all, it doesn't matter. We can't win. You won hundreds of seats. My county had a Republican win in California. My county had a Republican win by like 1,000 votes. So if you can convince 1,000 Trump supporters not to vote, we're not Republican now. We don't have a Republican in the House. So I watched Republicans win in my area in California, where they do mass mail-in ballots. So I just see all these people like, I believe Mike Lindell, I'm not going to vote, Lynn Wood. And it's like, all right, then just sit home and follow, random people telling you things or whatever. Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I was like, what's your strategy then? You're like, people get mad at me for saying that. They don't vote. Then my county's Democrat and I'm getting screwed over again. So, I would say just be wise about what you do. Try to influence it for the better legally. But at the end of the day, Republicans are going to be able to win elections again. And if you think that they can't, why do you think Biden's freaking out so much? You think he's freaking out because they're going to steal it again? No, they're freaking out because, they realize that people are paying attention now. They're not popular. And that's what I think. To me, I'm not going to say this for sure because I don't know it, but whether it's purposeful or not, I think in a weird way, the last year and a half, although some great things were done, people did pass election integrity laws, like some progress was made. A lot of it to me seemed like a big distraction from the medical tyranny. You had Republicans lock the country down, Democrats lock the country down. Republicans do Operation Warp Speed, Democrats promote the vaccine, Republicans promote the vaccine. Everybody do mass testing, mass masking, like communism and all this type of ideology got ushered in under Trump, under McConnell. Everybody agreed with it. Republicans did nothing to stop it for the first 3 months. And now we have a 2-year conversation about something that's not that. And now we have a 4-month conversation about something that's not that. And what's the end of the conversation? Did Julian Assange get pardoned? No. Did Edward Snowden get pardoned? No. Did any of Trump supporters at January 6th get pardoned? No. So what did this end in? What did all of this running circles around Trump end in? It ended in many of Trump's most loyal supporters and organizers getting arrested or getting in trouble. So what did you accomplish? Nothing. You gave the Democrats more ratings, more power, more money, more control. And what did you get for it? Nothing. People didn't vote in the midterm elections. Oh, it's rigged. I'm not going to vote in Georgia. Both the Democrats won. Okay, now what? Now they have the Senate. Thank God for Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, or else your whole country would be screwed. Okay, it's 2 Democrats that are saving the country among with the Republicans. Now what's going on? People are talking about not voting. Look at the betting odds. It's 80% Democrats or Republicans to win. The Democrats are freaking out. So I'm starting to be nervous that this is some sort of scheme, whether it's meant to be or not, to get people in trouble, to get people set up at events and get arrested, and to get people to not vote, so Democrats win even harder. So it's not that it's not that I believe that elections are 100% fair, because honestly I don't. It's not that I believe what happened in November was legit, because I was watching on TV and I felt like everyone else. But to me, watching how it all unfolds, I'm a skeptical person. To me, it just looks like trap. These are traps that I didn't fall for. If I would have listened to people, how many people were on Twitter just publicly tweeting, oh, if you don't go to January 6th, you're not a patriot. If you don't go to thank God I don't fall for peer pressure, because everyone's like, oh, people didn't know it was going to be a big event like that, but everybody thought it was this big Trump rally. And I was thinking, for what? Why would I go to the Capitol to support Moderna Trump? All he does is sell Moderna vaccines on Twitter. All he does is say the same 3 things on loop. He's got no plan. He's got no aim. I'm not going to that event. Thank God I didn't get bullied. And now people are running in circles around people for 2 years. For what? To feel like the election's not fair because you didn't accomplish what you were never going to accomplish. Now you're not going to vote in November and Democrats are going to get more votes. Like, what are you doing? So if you want to have a fair election, in my personal perspective, have aim. Like, if I want to be an astronaut, I got to figure out how to be an astronaut, not just freak out all the time at everybody. Like, have a real plan, get with an organization that's doing legal things to do the right thing. Don't just sit and get mad. I don't know. I'm like, so many people are just aimlessly running in circles around the wrong people. And I feel like it's going to lead to us losing, and it's a big deal. Yes, I think the Republican Party's full of shit. Yes, I believe they were in on 2020, but things have changed. People have learned their lessons, some of them. And I do believe if this was a Democrat majority, this country would be screwed. And if you don't like, this is the difference for me and a lot of people. A lot of people are anarchists saying, "Normally, just don't vote, don't care." Bro, go to Australia, see how you like it. Go to Canada. There is a difference. There's a difference between Canada and Australia. There's a difference between Orange County and Los Angeles. There's a difference between being in Florida and being in California in certain areas. So, to these people who think it doesn't matter at all, you say that now, but you keep acting that way, you're going to figure out what you had and what you lost. Like, you don't know what you have till it's gone. There is a difference. So I'm just getting nervous that there's so many people that are following the wrong actors, promising you the world, falling short, getting you in trouble at setup events, having no accountability for it, and running you in circles with these things that they're not able to do. So what do they leave you? Disappointed. Is a thing going to get, is it going to get uncertified? It's 2022. If you are still following somebody telling you that they're going to decertify something from 2020 and do something for an election that happened almost 2 years ago, they're lying to you. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen or couldn't happen, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? It just seems like a never-ending revolving door to nothingness. So I am personally, as much as people get mad at what I say, I'm voting Republican. And how many patriots that are so interested in the election aren't going to vote? I watched my county win by 1,000 or so votes Republican. If you can convince 3,000 Trump supporters that voting doesn't matter because the election needs to be decertified or whatever, my county is now Democrat. That's how close these elections are. So be very smart. Don't not do anything, but really vote, in my opinion. But people don't want to. They don't have to listen to me. Thank you, Andrew. Someone said, "Wow, he's voting unsubbed." I don't care. You're not going to bully me into voting or not voting. It's like so many anarchist libertarians. It's like I'm drinking oat milk, like you right now, but it's like, they're like, "Oh, I don't vote. I'm saving America." It doesn't matter. Your non-vote matters as much as my vote. But in general, if there were 1,000 people like you in my county, we would be under occupation of Democrats like Los Angeles. And it doesn't work and it doesn't help. So, this idea that, "Oh, I'm not voting and I'm saving the country," because it's like, you're not doing anything. You're doing slightly less than I'm doing. Go move to the most liberal area. Go live in New York City, "Oh, I don't care." Then go live in New York City. Go see what it's like to get a vaccine passport and then move to a conservative county where the sheriffs don't care. We have a great sheriffs in Orange County. Most people do the right thing. If you have that attitude, I don't want you in my community. Go to Los Angeles with that attitude. You know what I'm saying? Move to Portland, and then see how much it matters. It matters a little bit. A lot? No, both parties are still doing this and that. But it's like this, to me, it's like this conversation of, is voting Republican going to save the whole country? It's not. They're not doing enough. Is voting Republican not doing anything? No, it does something. You know what I'm saying? It provides even small resistance on certain patterns. Someone said you're drinking oat milk. That's it, unsubbed. Understandable, Donatello. It's actually almond milk. Okay, I made a mistake. My bad. Someone said Democrats love anomaly. Why? What is that like? Why do you think that? Because I say things that are outside the box? What You think any part of this live stream that anybody who watched it, Democrats are like, oh yeah, this guy's really helping us? Nobody thinks that, but whatever. Someone said, why are all your followers suddenly snowflakes? Well, I don't want to say that. First of all, most of my followers are great. I would say almost everybody. There's just people that disagree. That's okay. And also there's always people in the comments that don't agree. It's not a big deal. Most people who watch, they don't comment. So you got to understand 95% of my viewers don't comment. The ones that do, some people don't agree. It's not a big deal. I actually enjoy it. If everybody agreed, it wouldn't be fun. I like people who say unsubbed, I hate you. It makes it fun. So most of my followers are great. Even the ones that aren't so great, we still love them anyway because they make the show fun and interesting. Someone said, I don't agree with anything. I like that. Skeptical of everything. You're like, I equally hate everyone. It's like, that's fine. Someone said, do I think Trump is a rhino betraying backstab all of us, or he's not smart and fall into the trap? Period. I go through back and forth in my head, but here's my most, and then I'm gonna leave. Here's my most honest thoughts about Donald Trump right now. I personally think he's a really good salesman. He's really good at what he does. And I think in many ways, he came in with good intentions. I think he came in and tried to do what he could do. At the end, I just think his character flaws are something that proves that he can't last a long time. Like, if you have a big ego and big, pride, these are things that weigh down any man. You have to be confident. You have to be strong, but you have to be humble enough to know when you got to move. I think Trump has way too big of an ego that he's now a liability. At first, it was a huge plus. Now, I think when you listen to him talk and you listen to DeSantis talk and you listen to Ron Paul talk, he's tapped into the people. You listen to DeSantis talk, he's tapped into the people. Donald Trump is so obsessed with himself. I don't think since 2020 to now, I don't think he cares what everyone else is dealing with. Everything he says is always like about himself. He doesn't care about the mandates that much. He doesn't care about, what's going on with the vaccine. He's selling his plan because it looks good for him and he thinks that's what makes him look good. So I'm just not interested in him taking over. I think he would really, really screw it up this time. I think he's older. I think he's more washed up. I think he hit a snag and he's like Scott Adams, he just can't figure it out. Like Scott Adams is not a stupid dude, but he's super stubborn and he's an idiot now because Scott Adams can't figure out basic common sense and he's mad at everybody else. I feel like, I don't know if he purposely did all this stuff, but I just feel like he's not humble enough to realize where he messed up, or he's more interested in selling his products and selling his agenda than he is looking back and making like little changes. So I think overall, I can't say what he did, but I really just don't trust him anymore. For example, like when he ran, I bought into a lot of what he said. Not at first, but I don't need their money, right? I literally thought that. I've said this in many videos where I'm like, and it's still somewhat true, but it's like Donald Trump's a billionaire. He doesn't need to be bought off. He doesn't need their money. So that makes him more real, right? He doesn't need Big Pharma's money, but he took Big Pharma's money. So he told us that he doesn't need their money. But he took their money. He took $1 million from Pfizer, $1 million from Bank of America. He put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of HHS. These are things that he wasn't honest about, but this brand of draining the swamp, it's like he sold it, but he didn't do it. And in his 4 years, like, how did he end his presidency, right? I'm hands off. Listen, the truth about Trump will come out in his last 2 months. Was he the real deal? Is he going to pardon somebody cool? Is he going to show us who he really is? And to me, he showed us who he really was. He ran people around himself for 3 months. He got everybody to go to this event aimlessly where people thought that he was going to be elected when he wasn't going to be elected. Mike Pence, this and that. Everybody got in trouble. He didn't really help anybody. He didn't pardon Julian Assange. He didn't pardon Edward Snowden. He went out like a total coward. So I feel like, everything reveals itself at the end. Now it's 2021, last year. Okay, he's off social media. He could be even realer now. He doesn't have to abide by the rules. He could talk as much shit as he wants. He's a free man, really. Go on Fox, say what you want to say. He's been worse than he's ever been. I feel like, anybody, DeSantis, Paul, Thomas Massey, Candace Owens, like, Candace, say what you want about her. She speaks from her heart. You should have looked at her Instagram story the other day. She's talking about circumcision and childhood vaccines. You know, she had a lot to share that a lot of people don't want to hear. That's balls. That's like, you know, that's strength, for lack of a better word. That's, you know, that's power. Somebody who has a lot to lose, who's not afraid to tell people with their platform, here's what I really think about two controversial subjects. That's who Trump was the first couple of years. It's not who he is anymore. He's just like, I sold vaccines. I'm so good. Like, oh my God, my crowd sizes were big. Like, he's been so tapped out of what we're dealing with. He's been so tapped out of the medical stuff. So, you know, I don't know if Trump got bought off or anything, but I think he sold us on this idea that he was somebody that he never was, and Make America Great Again was more of a brand than it was a reality. It was maybe, I'm not trying to assume too much, but maybe maybe like it was his writers, you know, like people like Bannon, where they used this populist movement created by Ron Paul, created by the Tea Party, Andrew Breitbart, people like Alex Jones, you know, like his speechwriters harnessed this energy of the disaffected progressives and the right wingers who knew that the Republican Party is full of crap. And maybe he really never was that person, right? Maybe it was Bannon and these speechwriters who gave him all these talking points. Make America great again, you know, no wars. And he did a good job with the wars. I think he did a great job with foreign policy, but with a lot of other stuff, it just feels like when push came to shove, he wasn't who he said he was. And now that I listen to him in interviews, it just kind of feels like he's not that person at all. Like, he's not tapped into what we're doing. He doesn't care. He cares about himself. And, you know, I just think after how he went out the last 3 or 4 months of his presidency, all of 2021, his leadership to me is not even like top 100. I'm just going to name some people that I consider better thought leaders right now in the Republican Party. Hear me out. In 2018, in 2017, in 2016, and in 2015, make no mistake about it, Donald Trump was the number one thought leader in the Republican Party, okay? He was the man. Everybody else was below him. I know my place. I was below him. I'm not even close to him. Donald Trump was number one from 2015 to 2018. 2019, we'll even say, even part of 2020. There's no debating it. Donald Trump was the man. Everybody followed Donald Trump because he was the man. It wasn't, oh, I'm going to make excuses for Donald Trump. It was, he's the man. He's the thought leader. He's on top of it. He's the best. We're following the best. Right now, if you want to be honest, I don't even consider Donald Trump a top 50 thought leader in the conservative party. So when I loved Donald Trump and when I followed Donald Trump, I did it because he was number one. Now, let me just go through a list of people that I actually think are more honest about what's going on than Donald Trump. Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, Tucker Carlson, Rand Paul, DeSantis, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. I mean, Trump to me is so far below these people now with his rhetoric, with where his head's at, with his, his messaging. Like, I can't even pretend to act like, oh my God, this guy's blowing my mind. Like, his leadership really sucks. Robert Malone's doing a better job than him. Russell Brand's doing a better job than him. I guess even Robert Kennedy Jr. is doing a better job than him. Del Bigtree is doing a better job than him. Like, Trump has fallen so far behind for me in fighting this authoritarianism that he helped usher in. I don't even consider him a top 50 or top 100 voice in America against authoritarianism, against medical tyranny, against the takeover of America. So, I mean, I could pretend for people to be like, man, he's really blowing my, like, he was killing it before that. Now he's really not. So who is he? I don't really know who he is. I'm watching him in interviews and stuff, and I'm like, do you believe this stuff? Are you just like a sleazy, like, he reminds me of like a sleazy car salesman that's just like, yo, he's like, this baby will last 1,000 years. And like, you drive it off the lot and it falls apart. That's what Donald Trump reminds me of when he's just selling his Operation Warp Speed program. He's trying to act like he saved the world. It's like he's lying through his teeth. Oh, 100 million lives saved. It's the greatest human accomplishment. He's like a sleazy car salesman on a commercial. Like, and I'm looking at him and I look at him and he doesn't seem confident anymore. When Donald Trump was the man, the number one thought leader, his balls were on the table. He was confident. He was the man. You felt it when Donald Trump talked. He was talking to you like a man. Now he talks like a castrated dog. I don't think he believes himself. I think he's ashamed of himself. I think he now looks other men in the eyes, like people at Newsmax, and they ask him a tough question, and he feels like Courage the Cowardly Dog because he's just like, this baby will get you 1,000 miles if you drive it off the, like, he's like a sleazebag. And it's like, bro, We had your back for 4 years. We believed in you. You know your leadership sucks now. You know you're falling behind DeSantis. You know Rand Paul is doing a better job, and Thomas Massie and Candace Owens. Like any of those people, like Matt Walsh from Daily Wire, like, dude, it's like Trump is like a clown now. He's like a washed up political clown. And it's sad because you're like, I remember who you used to be or you pretended you used to be, but it's like, why did you do, like, who are you? And at any point he could switch it up and get back to full form and people would forgive him. People still don't care that he isn't in full form, but it's like, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know who he is, but it's like, he went, to me, the easiest way I can explain it, he went from being the number one thought leader in America when it came to important issues. And in 2020 and 2021, he fell to like not even a top 50, top 100. And people just kind of like him based off of who they think he is or who he used to be or what they hope he might be. And nobody, even the people that like him more than me still, they don't say what they said in 2018. They don't say, oh, I like Donald Trump because he's the man. I like Donald Trump because he's right about all this stuff. I like Donald Trump because he's on every issue. They're making excuses for him. Oh, I think he's like a boomer and doesn't know how to use the internet. Oh, I like Trump, but he's stupid and he's wrong about, like, this is like the vibe change. It's like 2017. It's like, I like Trump because he's great. I like Trump because he's got good leadership. I like Trump because he's right about so much stuff. Now it's changed to like his biggest fans are like apologists. They're like, I like Trump because I think he's too dumb to know what he's talking about. And it's like, it's disappointing. But yeah, I think someone said they took his Twitter account. Here's the thing, though. That's totally wrong. I don't agree with the censorship on Trump either. But here's another side of it. Like, when you get censored on Twitter, you don't have to censor yourself. In a way, he could have. People are going to cover what he's saying. He could go on a tour. He could go on Newsmax. He still goes on Fox. He has the ability to say more. If I got censored on Facebook and YouTube, you think I can't say what I want? Then I'm going to go on Telegram and Rumble and Gab, and I could say whatever the hell I want because I know that they can't do anything. It's like, you're almost, as much as it hurts your thing, Donald Trump can get away from it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can get covered on Fox. He'll say something and everybody covers it. He's probably the number one person on the planet who can get censored and still get away with it to get his message out there. It's not just that he got censored. He totally caved. Like, he's not who he used to be. He's not really a leader, in my opinion. So I think someone said war strategy. People like to think that. Personally, I think he's somebody that is very, very funny, very likable, very good schmoozer. And when it's all said and done, he cares about himself a lot more than the American people. And I think his character flaws are a huge red flag. 2020 was a huge red flag. 2021 was a huge red flag. And he seems completely unapologetic or unaware of any of it. So me personally, I would like to see Rand Paul, DeSantis, these type of people I have a little more faith in. But to each their own. I'm not in control of this. And most people, don't want to hear that or don't agree with it. But my personal opinion of, like, if he sold out or this or that, I mean, he definitely took money from pharma and he definitely changed his tune. But I think it's more of like a pride ego thing than it is like a sheer money content thing. Like, yeah, he took the money, but I think he's just one of these people that, can't admit when he messed up. And humility and pride, I mean, not to act like a preacher, but like pride, if you're a man and you're not a god, pride affects us all. Like, you can't be overly prideful or overly egotistical. Look at Scott Adams. Scott Adams is a smart guy, a successful guy. Scott Adams is having like a terrible year politically because he's so stubborn. Scott Adams might be the most narcissistic person outside of Alec Baldwin. Scott Adams might be the most self-centered idiot I've ever seen. Scott Adams is smart. You could even say he's a genius in some categories, but he has so much pride, and Scott Adams has so much ego and so little humility that Scott Adams is now the biggest clown I've ever seen in my life. The joke is on him, and he doesn't seem to be able to get it. I feel like Donald Trump is very similar to Scott in that way. He's so smart, but his pride and ego is so big, he's ended up being the biggest circus clown, and all he would have to do is say, I made a little mistake. Ron DeSantis did it. He said, I wish I never shut down. That's why I like Ron DeSantis more than Trump. He's like, dude, I did mess up. And everyone messed up, but I'm going to make it right now. I'm a leader. So because I messed up for a few months, I'm going to do everything I could do in order to make it right. That's what Ron DeSantis, that's his energy. I'm gonna make it right. I was wrong. Trump is, I didn't make a mistake. It was great. Lockdowns, warp speed. It's so good. I don't see any side effects. Like, he's a clown. It comes from pride and humility. I don't think they just straight bottom out. You know, this is a human issue. Doesn't matter if you're Donald Trump, me, Scott Adams, Joe Biden, you know what I'm saying? Vladimir Putin, whoever. If you have too much ego and too much pride, like 100% and 0% integrity to realize when you made a mistake and switch it up, you will have a downfall. And he had a downfall in 2020, 2021. He could still win, but as far as will he be a good leader? Better than Biden? Sure. Yeah. I mean, if it's Trump versus Biden, I'll vote for Trump. But do I think he's a top 50 or 100 thought leader in the conservative party? No, I would. If Trump won, I would chalk it up as a politician winning. He's a politician. You know, he won the election. I would put him in the same boat as like Mitch McConnell, except slightly like way funnier. I wouldn't be like, oh man, we have a real patriot in office. Like, no, we have a guy who's going to push speech laws for a foreign country, suck up to big pharma, and, you know, keep the economy rolling, hopefully, you know, more than Joe Biden. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Have a beautiful day. And if you disagree, no worries. It's all gravy. Have a good one. That's just my personal thoughts. All right. Have a good day, guys.